Lex Friedman recently interviewed Sam Altman in a fascinating, almost 2-hour-long episode. They dove deep into topics like GPT-5, AGI, AI security, and the artificial intelligence chip Goldrush. Now, do you want to find out how Altman answered Lex's toughest questions? And what his answers actually meant in between the lines? Well, by the end of this video, you'll learn all about that and more. Plus, you'll find out if Sam Altman thinks he's the god of AI. Lex Friedman is a research scientist at MIT who specializes in all things AI and machine learning. He's most known for his artificial intelligence podcast and his unique Men in Black type attire.
You know what the difference is between you and me? I make this look good.
Over the last 7 years, Lex has interviewed prominent guests like Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, and Jeff Bezos, just to name a few. In his latest episode, he interviews Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, the guy who was fired, then rehired, all within a few short weeks. In their interview, Lex asks Altman tons of tough questions, ranging from GPT-5 inquiries to questions about AI taking over the world. The problem is, Altman is vague with almost all of his answers throughout the podcast. So let's dive into the most interesting topics covered, read in between the lines, and figure out what Altman's vague answers really mean. First up is the topic of GPT-5. ChatGPT-5 is by far one of the most highly anticipated chatbots to be ever released. No one, including Lex, knows the details or timeline of when ChatGPT-5 will be unleashed upon the world. Lex jumps right in and asks,
So when is GPT-5 coming out again?
I don't know. That's the honest answer.
Oh, that's the honest answer.
As you can see, Altman evades the question at first in a historically awkward fashion, but eventually he answers Lex's question in a roundabout way by saying a new model will be released. But he doesn't specifically say it will be GPT-5. Altman goes on to say,
We will release an amazing new model this year. I don't know what we'll call it.
So that goes to the question of like, what's the way we release this thing?
We'll release over in the coming months many different things. I think they'll be very cool. I think before we talk about like a GPT-5 like model called that or not called that or a little bit worse or a little bit better than what you'd expect from a GPT-5, I think we have a lot of other important things to release first.
What the OpenAI CEO says in that clip was key. He tells Lex that other tools from OpenAI will be released before ChatGPT-5. And this makes sense. Earlier in the interview, Altman said he doesn't want to make huge leaps from one chatbot version to the next. He wants to release chatbots in smaller iterations, making them easier for the end user to digest. This means it's very possible that OpenAI will release smaller tools that as a whole will make GPT-5 what it is. So, for example, if a tool like Sora is actually part of what defines GPT-5, Sora and tools like it will be released first. And once all those tools that make up GPT-5 are released, OpenAI can have some official ChatGPT-5 launch party announcement, even though the chatbot at that point has largely been in the public's hands for months. Next up is the topic of AGI, or artificial general intelligence. Lex again dives right into this topic headfirst and asks Altman bluntly,
When do you think you and we as humanity will build AGI?
Altman ends up giving a long-winded answer, but gets to the point and says,
I expect that by the end of this decade, and possibly somewhat sooner than that, we will have quite capable systems that we look at and say, wow, that's really remarkable.
And again, Sam is vague and doesn't use the word AGI in his answer. Instead, he uses the words quite capable systems. But let's not kid ourselves. We all know he's talking about artificial general intelligence. Lex then presses Altman even further on what AGI actually is. Altman answers that AGI can be different things to different people. There's not a one-size-fits-all definition. So here's what AGI means specifically to Sam.
This is personally important to me. I don't know if this is the right definition. I think when a system can significantly increase the rate of scientific discovery in the world, that's like a huge deal. I believe that most real economic growth comes from scientific and technological progress.
So this means that AGI, according to Altman, will arrive once huge AI technological improvements happen in our world. The OpenAI CEO is alluding to future moments. Moments like when cancer is cured, when humans land on Mars, or when worldwide poverty is solved. When those moments happen, that's when you'll know that artificial general intelligence has arrived. Next up is the topic of compute. Compute is just a fancy way of saying the process of carrying out calculations on a computer system. And those calculations, for AI at least, are calculated on fancy GPU chips. You know, those ones that NVIDIA sells for $30,000 to $40,000 per pop. Altman believes that this compute power will be the new form of physical gold.
Look, I think compute is going to be the currency of the future. I think it will be maybe the most precious commodity in the world.
He then explains why compute will be so valuable.
Like intelligence is going to be more like energy or something like that, where the only thing that I think makes sense to talk about is at price X, the world will use this much compute, and at price Y, the world will use this much compute. Because if it's really cheap, I'll have it like reading my email all day, like giving me suggestions about what I maybe should think about or work on, and trying to cure cancer. And if it's really expensive, maybe I'll only use it, or will only use it to try to cure cancer. So I think the world is going to want a tremendous amount of compute.
Basically, Altman is saying that the world has an infinite amount of problems that need solved. The more compute or AI chips we have allocated to solving these problems, the more likely that a solution will appear. So if you want to have AI make humans live forever, you're going to need billions or trillions of dollars of compute power aimed specifically at that problem. And that amount of money might still not solve the problem. So the lesson is, just like gold, there's going to be an endless demand for AI chips. Who knows, one day the need for GPU chips could get so intense that the Discovery Channel might swap out its hit show Goldrush for Chip Rush. But the compute problem isn't just limited to a lack of GPU chips. Energy is another huge problem. You see, GPU chips use a lot of power, and that power needs to come from somewhere cheap and cost effective. Let's see how Altman prescribes to fix this issue.
How do you solve the energy puzzle? Nuclear
That's what I believe.
fusion?
That's what I believe.
So when everyone and their mother is calling for solar to save the day and be our energy source of the future, Altman believes that nuclear power is our only viable option to feed the ever-hungry AI energy computers of the future. He's hinting at the idea that humans need to reverse the trend of hating nuclear power and instead embrace it. We can't let disasters like Chernobyl and 3 Mile Island scare us into not using nuclear power. Next up, the topic of AI security. Lex asks Altman if we should be worried about losing control of AI. Altman replies,
Not my top worry.
he then proceeds to expand on this.
You know, we talked about theatrical risks
Yeah.
earlier. That's a theatrical risk.
The OpenAI founder downplays the risk of AI ending humanity as we know it. He uses the phrase theatrical risks, which makes it sound like the people worried about it are creating drama. We can only speculate, but it does seem like Sam wants to downplay AI going rogue because it hurts the perception of OpenAI as a whole. I mean, who wants to support a company if it's just going to end up destroying humanity as we know it? Lex continues to press Altman on Sam's power over AI, which is a security risk in and of itself. Let's be real. Altman is kind of a god of AI right now. He's in charge of the biggest AI software company in the world, someone who has vast amounts of power over AI and where it's headed in the future. I mean, the OpenAI board wasn't even able to fire him. What prevents Altman from going off the rails and using AI for something nefarious?
Whoever builds AGI first gets a lot of power. Do you trust yourself with that much power?
But I don't think any one person should. And I don't think any one person will. I think it's just too big of a thing now, and it's happening throughout society in a good and healthy way. But I don't think any one person should be in control of an AGI. That would be, or this whole movement towards AGI. And I don't think that's what's happening.
It's obvious that Altman doesn't think he's the god of AI, but you do just have to trust him. There's no artificial intelligent regulatory agencies to keep Altman in check in the United States right now. But don't worry though. only humanity is at risk. That's it for tonight. If you want to learn more about cool AI tech, check out my other vid, comma.ai. Make your dumb car into an autopilot car. And if you found this video interesting, please subscribe to this YouTube channel and my free AI email newsletter at fry-ai.com/subscribe. Have a great night. This is Ryan signing out. Take care.